Good evening and welcome to Primetime News on TV1. For the Newsfirst team, I am Azra Hassan. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for tonight.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Former Minister Mangala Samaravira passes away. Health sector warns that the ICU capacity is overwhelmed with the rising number of COVID-19 infections. Cabinet green lights importation of 300,000 litres of medical grade oxygen weekly. 60 million rupees for an urgent repair at the BOI building. A revelation from Vasantha Samarasinghe.
ඔක්කොම ආපුවම ලක්ෂ 600ක 700ක වියදමක් කරන බදු එක්ක මොකටද අලුතෙන් කණ්ඩායමක් බඳව ගන්නවා වැඩ කරන්න.
Post-mortem reveals that the cause of death of the individual who died at the Matugama police is COVID pneumonia.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Former Minister Mangala Samaravira breathed his last early today while receiving treatment for COVID-19 at a private hospital in Colombo. He was 65 years of age at the time of his demise. This is Newsfirst epitaph to the late Mr. Mangala Samaravira.
Born in 1956 to Mahanama Samaravira and Kema Samaravira, Mangala inherited politics by birth. His father was the Minister of Provincial Councils, Housing, Communications, Post and Telecommunications. His mother too was an active politician, serving as a member of the Matara Urban Council. Samaravira was a proud product of Royal College Colombo and also held a Bachelor of Arts in Clothing Design and Technology from the University of Arts, London, Central St. Martins. Samaravira served as a design consultant at the Department of National Planning. He was also a visiting lecturer at the University of Aesthetic Studies. Samaravira entered politics in 1983 as the national organizer for the Matara district of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party and thereafter served as a frontline member of the party. Mangala Samaravira was first elected into parliament in 1989 from the Matara district. His vast knowledge and political expertise came to the fore in 1994 when he was selected as a member of cabinet during former President Chandrika Bandaranayake Kumaratunga's tenure. Since then, he served in a plethora of key cabinet positions, including the Minister of Urban Development, Construction, Communications, Post and Telecommunications, Public Utilities, and Deputy Minister of Finance. Mangala Samaravira is also lauded for revolutionizing the then defunct communication sector of the country. He also oversaw unforeseen development in the Matara district. As a dedicated party member, Samaravira held vital positions within the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, all the while working towards the betterment of the organization. Following defeat at the elections held in 2001, Samaravira rendered a yeoman's service to the party after being named the Chief Opposition Whip and the Treasurer of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. In 2004, he became the Minister of Ports, Aviation and Media in the new cabinet of President Chandrika Bandaranayake Kumaratunga. Samaravira was an instrumental figure behind Mahinda Rajapaksa's ascent to presidency in 2005. Mangala Samaravira was an outspoken figure who stood firm for his convictions and was unafraid to oppose anyone, even his close allies. This rare characteristic of his was aptly highlighted in 2006 when he sided with Anura Bandaranayake and Shripati Suryarachi while serving as the Foreign Minister of the Mahinda Rajapaksa government. Taking a step further from there on, he went on to form the SLFP Mahajana wing. Subsequently, Samaravira joined hands with Ranil Wickremesinghe to engage in politics representing the United National Party. Serving as an opposition politician, he campaigned actively to overthrow Mahinda Rajapaksa and appoint Maithripala Sirisena as the president of the country. In January 2015, Samaravira was appointed the Minister of Foreign Affairs once more under the government led by Maithripala Sirisena. Foreseeing an impending political shift, Samaravira resigned from his portfolio as the Minister of Finance on the 17th of November 2019. Mangala never faltered in his decisions. In June 2020, he announced that he would not contest the general election which was to be held on the 5th of August the same year, to the astonishment of many. He also urged the masses to refrain from voting for his preferential number.
ඇමතුමා දැන් දේශපාලනයෙන් සමු අරගෙනද ඉන්නේ?
නෑ කිසිසේත්ම නෑ මම පාර්ලිමේන්තු දේශපාලනයෙන් සමුගත්තා.
Samaravira was a controversial figure in the political sphere of Sri Lanka. He lent an ear to another's opinion while standing firm for his beliefs. He was a true liberal who drew praise from even his fiercest political rivals for his integrity and impeccable personal ethics. Mangala was a modernist, remaining updated with an ever-shifting world order, and was also the embodiment of creativity.
It means war.
Even mere days before his demise, Mangala spearheaded a move to form a youth movement to guide the misguided youth of the country. Mangala Samaravira, the democratic modernist, may you attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. The final rites of former Minister Mangala Samaravira were carried out at the Baralla Cemetery this evening. The final rites were carried out while adhering to health guidelines. A group including ruling and opposition party MPs and ministers were present.
Several factions have expressed their condolences over the demise of former Minister Mangala Samaravira. Taking to Facebook, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa said, quote, "I am deeply saddened to hear the sudden demise of Mangala Samaravira, an honoured politician who made a significant contribution to the Sri Lankans by launching great transformations in the course of Sri Lankan politics." End quote. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa tweeted, quote, "Today we have lost a great leader, a man who loved this nation. I thank him for his service to Sri Lanka." End quote. In a tweet, leader of the opposition Sajith Premadasa said that Mangala Samaravira was a man of the age who respected humanity. In a statement issuing condolences, the opposition leader said that Mangala Samaravira fought against racism and worked hard for reconciliation in Sri Lanka. Issuing a statement, former President Maithripala Sirisena has said that Mangala Samaravira was a genuine political colleague and a great person with new ideas for the new world. Meanwhile, former President Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga also issued a statement regarding the former minister's demise. In the statement, the former president has said, quote, "Your exceptional vision for Lanka and the world lives on. I shall forever remember the monumental service you rendered in diverse ministerial posts. You led the modernization of our communications and media sectors. You hugely progressed our international relations from the dismal pit it had descended into and took Sri Lanka to the world stage, making us once again a proud and strong nation. You achieved all this facing many challenges with courage and dignity." End quote. Issuing a statement, leader of the United National Party, Ranil Wickremesinghe, stated that Mangala Samaravira's untimely demise is a great loss to the nation, the United National Party, and to him personally. The statement added that Mangala Samaravira was an outstanding politician who always stood firm for his convictions, which involved a Sri Lanka where all were free and equal and where human rights were upheld. In a statement, the Janata Vimukthi Peramuna said that Mangala Samaravira never used racism for political gains. The statement notes that despite the differences of political views between the JVP and the former minister, Mangala Samaravira was an honest statesman in the political sphere. Posting on his Facebook page, parliamentarian M.A. Sumandiran stated that, quote, "There was no better friend of the other communities in Sri Lanka from among the Sinhala politicians," end quote. Meanwhile, many diplomats have also expressed their condolences over the demise of the former minister. In a tweet, the US ambassador to Sri Lanka, Alina B. Teplitz, said that the former minister was a patriot, a humanitarian and a leader, and expressed her condolences to the family and friends of Mangala Samaravira. The British High Commission in Colombo tweeted, quote, "His hard work to strengthen the UK-SL relationship and his commitment to achieve post-war reconciliation in Sri Lanka will not be forgotten," end quote. New Zealand High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Michael Appleton, expressed his condolences to friends, family and colleagues of Mangala Samaravira. The delegation of the European Union to Sri Lanka tweeted, quote, "Mangala Samaravira will be warmly remembered for his commitment to strengthening ties between Sri Lanka and the EU," end quote. Former Minister of International Development of Norway, Erik Solheim, said, and I quote, "He was one of the best and most decent Sri Lankan politicians of his generation. He will be dearly missed," end quote. Maldivian President Ibrahim Mohamed Solih said that Mangala Samaravira was a dedicated public servant who contributed greatly to Sri Lanka and a strong advocate of the Maldives-Sri Lanka friendship.
With the rising number of COVID-19 infections in the country, health professionals have warned that the intensive care units at hospitals are overwhelmed.
Compared to last week, there has been a rise in the number of COVID-19 cases and deaths reported. With the information we have received, ICUs are almost full of patients with complications.
SLMA's revelation on COVID-19 infection.
The number of infections reported last week increased by 40%. It is more than the number of infections reported during the previous week. The first message we need to give you is on the vaccine. If you did not receive the vaccine, get vaccinated immediately. If you are above the age of 60, receive the vaccine immediately. Moreover, abide by the quarantine regulations imposed in the country. The responsibility of protecting those closest to you is on you. Help the country by fulfilling that responsibility.
It is correct to say that our country is in a state of national disaster due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The number of patients is increasing rapidly each day. When considering the number of beds available in the country, earlier it stood at 32,000. However, now it stands at 42,000. Even still, it has reached a point where even these numbers will be insufficient. The number of patients who require oxygen support is also increasing at an alarming rate. Under the current circumstances, it has reached a point where the hospital capacities are filling up rapidly. Recently, we saw the highest number of daily deaths being recorded in the country. Normally, the hike in the death toll comes after a surge of patients. This is not a situation that can be resolved by a single party or even an individual. SLMA announces a consultation hotline for COVID-19 patients receiving treatment at home. 247 was a number that was used by the Medical Association for some time. Now we have updated it. This number will be operational in all 3 languages and it will be in service 24/7. By calling 247, you can have a live consultation with a doctor.
A revelation regarding asymptomatic children. As of now, close to 200 children infected with COVID-19 are receiving treatment at the Lady Ridgeway Hospital. Dr. Nalin C. Kitulwatta stated that ICU units at the hospital are available only for around 6 children. He said that, however, 7 children are currently receiving treatment for COVID-19 at the ICU. Hospital Director Dr. G. Vijay Surya told Newsfirst that 14 children who have been receiving treatment at hospitals have died thus far.
කොරෝනා වැළඳුණු දරුවෙක් එයාගේ එදිනදා වැඩ කටයුතු කරත් ඇවිද්දත්
The oxygen levels in the blood of children could rapidly reduce even though they engage in daily activities as usual. Difficulties in breathing, talking, or any physical activities can be seen usually when the oxygen levels in the blood are reduced. However, when it comes to COVID-19, the oxygen levels could reduce even though the child does not show any symptoms. It is a silent killer. This was the case surrounding the deaths of 2 COVID-19 patients in the recent past. Patients like this seem to emerge now. Recovering from COVID-19 requires rest. If a child's oxygen level reduces below 94% after a little physical activity or reduces below 96% while sleeping or resting, that child must be admitted to a hospital.
ඔක්සිජන් මට්ටම 96ට වඩා අඩු වෙනවා නම් අනිවාර්යෙන්ම ඒ දරුවාව රෝහල් ගත කළ යුතුයි.
Did this situation emerge pursuant to the spread of the Delta variant?
අපි හිතනවා එහෙම මොකද
We believe so, since now there are children in hospitals who show more symptoms than the Alpha variant.
දකිනවා රෝහල පුරාම දකිනවා.
What is the impact on the hospital staff with the rising number of patients?
The COVID-19 section of the ICU unit at the Lady Ridgeway Hospital is now full. We can see a reduction of the staff after a few staff members were infected with COVID-19. The pediatric intensive care unit of the Karapitiya Teaching Hospital, a unit that usually treats 7 patients, only has 3 patients admitted. The staff of the hospital has been infected. This is a serious situation. If the staff at the Lady Ridgeway Hospital is also infected with the virus, we will have to reduce the number of beds and facilities at the unit.
When will children be inoculated? What is the best vaccine for children?
As of now, we are hoping to inoculate children with the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines that have been globally approved. The vaccine must first be given to children below the age of 12 with complications and chronic diseases. We are trying to provide these vaccines to those children first. The specific date depends on the number of vaccines we receive. Different nations are researching to provide 4 other types of vaccines to children between the ages of 3 and 12. Moderna, Pfizer, Sinovac and Sinopharm are the 4 types of vaccines. We will get to know the types of vaccines that children above the age of 3 can receive. Accordingly, we believe that those children will also be inoculated in the future.
GMOA issues a warning. Even if this wave of the Delta variant is controlled, there is a chance of more strains that are resistant to vaccines emerging in the next stage. Government Medical Officers Association constantly pointed out the way to reduce these COVID-19 fatalities through managing the vaccination drive in a proper manner. As the Government Medical Officers Association, we developed a methodology for this purpose by consolidating the criteria followed by the World Health Organization and the views of our own specialists. When we handed over this proposal to the President last May, the President accepted it and instructed to act accordingly. The main project of this proposal was on how to prevent the 90% of COVID-19 deaths through the vaccination drive. In this proposal, we pointed out that many who succumbed to COVID-19 were those in the age of 60 and above, people with non-communicable diseases. We proposed a vaccination drive that would give more priority to these categories. In this proposal, we pointed out a way to reduce these fatalities by 90% by only using 10 million doses of the vaccine. By now, we have received roughly about 20 million doses of the vaccine. And if we have used the first 10 million doses properly, we could have prevented at least 80% of these deaths. Even though the President had given instructions in this regard, we saw some parties going beyond those instructions of the President and changing the mechanism. The 2 specialist doctors of the epidemiology unit should come and explain the reason why they did not implement the orders given by the President. Government's plan to import medical grade oxygen. The Cabinet has approved the proposal made by the Minister of Health to import 300,000 litres of medical grade oxygen weekly. The current oxygen usage in the country has increased, and the reason for this increase is the rising number of COVID-19 patients. Therefore, the cabinet has granted approval to import 300,000 litres of oxygen weekly. During an earlier cabinet meeting, approval was granted to import 120,000 litres of oxygen monthly. However, under the current circumstances, the relevant arrangements will be made to provide oxygen to these patients without any hindrance.
මේ ඔක්සිජන් රෝගීන් වෙනුවෙන් ලබා දීම වෙනුවෙන් අදාළ ප්‍රසම්පාදන කටයුතු සිදු කරනු ඇති.
The All Ceylon Nurses Union convened a media briefing today and elaborated on the complications faced by healthcare workers in light of the health crisis in the country.
All hospital beds in the healthcare system have been notified to allocate 50% of its total bed capacity to COVID-19 patients. At main hospitals such as the National Hospital in Colombo, more than 50% of the beds have been allocated. 17 wards and 3 ICUs at the National Hospital alone have been assigned to treat COVID-19 patients, but that capacity too has exceeded by now. Between the 7th and 14th of August, 90 nurses at the National Hospital have contracted COVID-19. From the 14th to the 21st of August, 81 people in the nursing staff have tested positive for the virus. Some of them are undergoing quarantine.
කොරෝනා රෝගයට ගොදුරු වුණා සහ නිරෝධායනට ලක් වෙන්න සිද්ධ වුණා.
Healthcare workers, including doctors, are currently engaged in a relentless struggle to safeguard the people of Sri Lanka from the deadly coronavirus. Unfortunately, many of these unsung heroes have already fallen prey to COVID-19. This is the story of the first ambulance driver in Sri Lanka who lost his life in an untimely manner due to COVID-19.
B.A. Amarajiva rendered his services as an ambulance driver attached to the Ratnapura Teaching Hospital day and night, throwing caution to the wind. Amarajiva voluntarily ferried COVID-19 patients since the very first patient reported from the Ratnapura Teaching Hospital, at times at the cost of his own rest and hunger. Amarajiva, who did not abandon his duties in the face of adversity in the form of COVID-19, ultimately fell prey to the virus he aimed to save others from. 58-year-old Amarajiva was a permanent resident of Nivithigala, Ratnapura, but he reported to work without delay from his temporary residence.
නැහැ කියලා. එයාගෙන් වෙන්න ඕනි ඔක්කොම ඉදදම් එයාවට කරා. ඉගෙනගෙන කැම්පස් යන කාලෙත් එයාට ඉන්න බැරි වුණා. මම ගොඩක් ආසාවෙන් හිටියේ මම උපාධියක් ගන්නකොට එයාට ඉන්නවද කියලා.
Healthcare workers stationed island-wide are currently rendering an invaluable service to protect our citizens from COVID-19. This unfortunate demise bears testament to COVID-19 spreading among healthcare workers in our country.
He was a friendly character. He fulfilled his duties to the fullest. We have seen it with our own eyes. Those employed at hospitals are the ones who are directly involved in this. May the Triple Gem bless those people to carry forward their duties without any hindrance or despair.
කිසිම බාධාවකින් තොරව කටයුතු සිදු කරන තුන්වන්ගේ ආශිර්වාදයත් දෙවියන්ගේ ආශිර්වාදයත් ලැබේවා කියලා අපි ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරමු.
B.A. Amarajiva's services that he rendered for over 20 years in the act of saving lives will forever be remembered, although he was an unfortunate victim of this deadly virus.
The quarantine curfew imposed in the island is still in effect. However, large crowds were seen entering Colombo this morning. Meanwhile, convening a media briefing today, trade unions attached to the Sri Lanka Podujana Perumana said that steps must be taken to reopen the country.
We would like to inform the government that closing the country is not the only solution. We urge the government to reopen the country as soon as they can and revive the economy. It is the state workers that fall in trouble as funds continue to deplete. It is the responsibility of the working class to contribute to the restart of the economic mechanism of the country. Let's open the country once more on the 30th. The state mechanism must restart based on a scientific system. As trade unions, we will provide the support needed for the process to the government. The government's stance was that a lockdown is unnecessary. We can see a number of vehicles in Colombo and surrounding areas today that is similar to the number of vehicles on a regular day. There was an idea previously that a member of a household can step outside. Something similar to that is happening now. The rulers of the country, the cabinet members, have no idea regarding the process of this lockdown.
ඔවුන්ට මේ ලොක්ඩවුන් කිරීම හා මේ යන ක්‍රියාපිළිවෙත ගැන කිසිම අදහසක් නැහැ.
There is a rapid increase in number of COVID-19 infections and deaths. When you compare with global stats, Sri Lanka is in a very risky and a dangerous situation. The leaders of this government should have thought about this situation before, but the leaders disregarded this responsibility and went behind pots and tonics. What is the end result of these actions? The leaders who attempt to resolve the issue while believing in these myths have now put the country in a state where corpses are piling up. So the government must take responsibility of these murders.
We will be back after this short commercial break. Stay with News First, the voice of the people.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Do your online shopping with Sambole.lk. Home delivery and pickup now available.
Sambole.lk.
Welcome back to the news. Will the salaries of state sector employees be slashed? Questions were raised during the cabinet media briefing today.
අමාත්‍යවරු කියනවා අපිට ඇහුණා අමතුමා මේ රාජ්‍ය සහ පෞද්ගලික අංශවල වැටුප් කප්පාදුවක් සම්බන්ධයෙන්
කිසිදු වෙලාවක රාජ්‍ය
No member of the government has ever proposed or even requested to cut the salaries of any employee in the private or public sector. I responsibly deny such media reports.
වගකීමෙන් මම ප්‍රතික්ෂේප කරනවා.
The government incurs 800 billion rupees to pay salaries for state sector employees. The government is expecting to save 400 billion rupees by slashing the salaries of state sector employees in half. The government that is hoping to save money by deducting salaries of the 1.4 million employees in the country has granted a tax relief of 523 billion rupees to a group including the wealthy people in the country. We wonder if there are any leftist ministers left to engage in politics anymore. Only a total of 29 billion rupees was printed during the Yahapalanya government in 2019. However, they have printed more than 1,000 only for the first 14 months. As a result, the salaries earned by the state sector employee cannot afford to pay for goods and services anymore. Parents are left helpless when children ask for milk. When banks ask for debt repayments, the people are left helpless. There is no place to purchase rice. There is no place to purchase milk powder. There is a shortage of medicine in the country. The working population is burdened from all sides.
All parliamentarians representing the SLFP decided to donate their salary for the month of July to assist efforts in combating COVID-19 in the country. The relevant check was presented to the chairman of the SLFP, Maithripala Sirisena, today during an event held at the SLFP headquarters.
The monthly salary of a parliamentarian is around 54,285 rupees. However, our parliamentary group decided to donate 100,000 rupees each. We will look into the requirement of rural hospitals and purchase the necessary equipment they lack. Also, we have decided to launch a week-long blood donation campaign for patients in lieu of the SLFP's 70th anniversary. Our duty during this critical juncture is to fulfill our responsibilities to the people. I would therefore like to thank all parliamentarians of the SLFP on a personal level as well as on behalf of the party for this action.
Meanwhile, the Samagijana Balawege also took a decision last week to donate its parliamentarians' salaries to curb COVID-19 in the country. Pursuant to this decision, several parliamentarians of the Samagijana Balawege have now decided to donate their monthly salaries for COVID-19 treatments until COVID-19 in the country is curtailed.
As the Samagijana Balawege, we have been providing funds needed to purchase medical equipment for the treatment of COVID-19 patients in the country. We have been doing this for quite some time and we will continue to fulfill these requirements to the best of our ability. Every parliamentarian from our party has contributed to this fund. Even now, our members are ready to donate their monthly salary to this fund, and I am willing to donate my monthly salary to this fund from this month onwards until the pandemic is curtailed.
Vasantha Samrasinghe of the Voice Against Corruption revealed of an attempt to spend 60 million rupees earmarked for the urgent renovation of the 24th floor of the World Trade Center building where the Board of Investment of Sri Lanka is located.
දැන් ජනාධිපතිතුමා යටතේ තියෙන BOI එකේ අර ලෝක වෙළඳ මධ්‍යස්ථානයේ තියෙන 24 වෙනි තට්ටුව දැන් රිපෙයාර් එකක් කරනවා.
The 24th floor of the World Trade Center building where the Board of Investment of Sri Lanka is located is now under renovation with expenditure of 54 million rupees without taxes. With the taxes, a total of 60 million rupees to 70 million rupees is being spent. What is this for? It is for a new team. Facilities are being built for them to work for the Director General and the Chairman. The board paper has been approved to construct the floor spending 60 million rupees to 70 million rupees. What is this for? It is so that they can work in comfort. The board paper has been presented to the Cabinet. They are trying to bring in 25 to 30 employees with an annual salary close to 380 million from foreign countries to the BOI. The people of the country are being told there is no money. At the moment, the economy of the country is heavily impacted and the people are suffering. Can't the government observe that? The BOI is named as an essential service. It is under the supervision of the President. When the board paper is approved and the money is allocated for it from the Treasury, will they say that this is an added expense and that it must reduce considering the prevailing situation? No, emptying the treasury has become the fashion of the government.
නෑ අපේ රටේ භාණ්ඩාගාරය හිස් කරන එක ආණ්ඩුවේ ෆැෂන් එක වෙලා තියෙන්නේ.
Journalists posed questions on this matter during the cabinet media briefing held today.
Reports have emerged of the BOI premises situated on the 24th floor of the World Trade Center being renovated at an exponential cost in excess of 60 million. Is this the ideal time to incur such an expense?
කිසිදු කැබිනට් තීන්දුවකදී නම් කැබිනට් සාකච්ඡාවකදී නම්
No such cabinet decision has been made to renovate it. Did you mean that this was going to be renovated through the government? If the government is investing such a sum, cabinet approval must be granted. Minister Ramesh Patirana and I will responsibly state no such matter has even been discussed at the cabinet.
නැමතුමත් වගකීමෙන් ඔබට කියනවා කිසිදු අවස්ථාවක කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලය තුල එවැනි සාකච්ඡාවක්වත් සිදු වෙලා නැහැ.
Many of our investors use the Investors Services Department, which is on the 24th floor of the building, to obtain details and approvals needed for their investments. If you see the current condition of this floor, you yourself might notice what is lacking there. The plan to renovate this floor was initiated at the beginning of this year, and currently we are still studying the rough estimates given to renovate this floor. However, with the current crisis we are facing as a country, we have halted this process, and when we reinitiate it, we will definitely continue it only after obtaining the relevant approval.
Up next is Crime Watch.
An autopsy has revealed COVID-19 is the cause of death of the individual who died while in custody of the Mathugama police on Sunday. Police spokesperson SSP Nihal Thalduwa, speaking to Newsfirst, said the post-mortem was carried out at the Kaluthara District General Hospital and the coroner's reports indicates no internal or external injuries with respect to the body of the deceased. The autopsy report was produced to the Mathugama magistrate on Tuesday evening. The deceased was arrested by police officers over his links to peddling illicit spirits. An eyewitness account noted that the suspect was beaten by police.
The broom was near the wall. They assaulted him using the broom. They slapped him twice and took him away in a three-wheeler.
However, the police reported that the suspect fell ill while in custody. A hospital spokesperson noted that the 40-year-old man from Mathugama was already dead when he was brought to the hospital.
Sri Lanka's inflation has risen to 6.8% in July 2021 from 6.1% in the previous month on a year-on-year basis. The latest statistics were published on the Department of Census and Statistics report for the month of July on the National Consumer Price Index.
What is the NCPI?
The National Consumer Price Index, or NCPI, is a macroeconomic indicator compiled to measure inflation, which is defined as a sustained increase in the general level of prices for goods and services, and it is measured as an annual percentage increase by NCPI. Year-on-year inflation of both food groups and non-food group increased from 9.8% in June 2021 to 11% in July 2021, and from 2.9% in June 2021 to 3.2% in July 2021 respectively. On year-on-year basis, contribution of food commodities to inflation was 5.07% in July 2021 compared to that of July 2020. Contribution of non-food items was 1.7%.
According to the Advocata Batkari indicator, which measures the prices of a household with 4 members weekly prices, and according to the Batkari indicator, however, it indicates about 45% increase of the food prices compared to last year. If the cost of a rice packet is approximately about 200 rupees, now it will cost about 300 rupees after 1 year.
Did excess money printing lead to higher inflation?
During the 6th Monetary Policy Review of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, held on the 19th of this month, Governor of the Central Bank, Professor W.D. Lakshman, was queried as to whether excess money printing led to the uptick in inflation.
Mostly it is supply-led yet. For example, the food price increase are leading the way domestically. And also overseas, the price hikes in various key commodities which are coming into our use through imports, particularly fuel prices. There is the fear of some demand pressures affecting the inflation. That is why some of these preventive measures have been taken.
However, economic experts expressed the following views.
When you do quantitative easing or when you increase the supply of money into the system, those money will chase behind imports. And when that money chase behind imports, our currency will be depreciated. So when your rupee is depreciated, most of the import items will increase, the price will increase, and our main import is the fossil fuel, petrol, diesel, kerosene. So that those prices will increase. So that will definitely have an impact on our cost of living, which is, in other words, on inflation.
The special drawing rights allocation by the International Monetary Fund to its member countries came into effect yesterday. According to the IMF, Sri Lanka has received 554.8 million SDRs under the new allocation, which would boost our country's reserves by more than $780 million.
Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, Kristalina Georgieva, announced that the largest allocation of special drawing rights of approximately $650 billion came into effect yesterday. According to the Managing Director, the allocation is a significant shot in the arm for the world and, if used wisely, a unique opportunity to combat the COVID-19 pandemic. What is an SDR? The special drawing right, better known as SDR, is an international reserve asset created by the IMF in 1969. An SDR can be exchanged for freely usable currencies of other IMF members. What is an SDR allocation? An SDR allocation is a way of identifying liquidity and supplementing the foreign reserves of IMF member countries. Under an allocation, SDRs are made available automatically to all member countries based on a quota system. Is the SDR allocation a loan from the IMF? The SDR allocation is not a loan from the IMF and is cost-free for all IMF members. Unlike an extended fund facility, the government does not have to request for any arrangement and there is no repayment involved. All member countries can use their newly allocated SDRs unconditionally. How will an SDR allocation help Sri Lanka? According to the IMF, Sri Lanka has been allocated 554.8 million SDRs. According to the central bank, the new SDR allocation would boost our foreign reserves by more than $780 million. How can the SDR be utilized?
It's not a fiscal currency like US dollar, which is backed by the strength of the United States, and it is not a currency that would help people to get whatever they want by using it. For us to use it in SDR form, we can use it only with transactions with the International Monetary Fund. If you have to make any payment, repayment of any debt that we have borrowed in the past from IMF, we can use these SDR to make that payment. But for us to make these payments universally and freely with other countries, first we have to convert them into another reserve currency, and most probably that reserve currency should be the United States US dollar. And as a result, another country will have to be willing to buy this from Sri Lanka and hold SDRs, and at the same time release their dollar balances to Sri Lanka to enable Sri Lanka to make any international payments.
Ukraine has issued a denial after earlier stating that a plane for evacuating Ukrainian citizens from Afghanistan was hijacked by unidentified people who flew it into Iran. And that's a wrap of this edition of Primetime News for tonight. For the Newsfirst team, I am Azra Hassan with our sign language interpreter Tharaka Gabriel. Take care and good night.